Welcome back to episode 3. We're already at episode 3, y'all. More Than Business Podcast. My name is Robin Kinney. I'm your host. I am an entrepreneur. I'm in my 8th year of entrepreneurship and the mom of 3, as well as having a thriving and happy and joyful personal life. And this podcast is all about helping you balance and have in harmony, I'll say, an entrepreneur life and your personal life, and how those two things are not only related, but the happier you are in your personal life, the more successful you can become as an entrepreneur. And so this podcast is all about giving you the tools, strategies, and resources to do that. Welcome if you are a new listener. If you are a listener that has listened to previous episodes, thank you. Thank you so much. New people, come on in. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a new entrepreneur, I'm going to give you all of the things that I've learned by trial and error over the last 8 years as an entrepreneur to make sure that I continue to be happy and whole and had a fulfilling life. So today's episode is titled, You Are Your Greatest Asset. And I titled it that because I was given a class. So I also teach an entrepreneur class from time to time for some of our students about just entrepreneurship 101 type of class. And we had one of the sessions was, of course, about financial statements. So we talked about balance sheets. We talked about profit and loss and knowing your numbers and the importance of those things. And those things are super important. But I also emphasize to them that you, the business owner, you're your greatest asset. And so you should treat yourself as such. In previous episodes, I touched on things like setting boundaries, on having a mindset of being solution oriented, to not take things personal. But in general, you have to look at yourself as an asset in your business. So how do you treat an asset? You take care of it. You make sure that it is in working order. You give it time and attention and energy. So as an entrepreneur, one of the key barometers of success is your asset. So whether you're service-based, or that would be your machinery, making sure that it's in working condition, or if you're product-based, gauging your success by, how many sales that you have to look at your assets. So this episode, we're talking about how to treat yourself as an asset, that you are your greatest asset. So quarterly financials, where you list your liabilities, you list your assets. That's typically how you gauge how the business is going. Am I making money? Am I not making money? But I really had to change how I looked at myself, not just as a business owner, but as an asset, And so the way that I broke this down was I looked at it as my energy. I looked at my health, and I looked at my mood. So that's kind of where I started, and looking at myself, me as an individual, as the owner of this company, as an asset. That's how I gauge how I'm doing. Am I in, quote, working order? My energy, my health, my mood. And all of these things really do affect how, you operate in your business and how you do in your business. So, it's when I titled the podcast, it's more than business, because behind the business is a person. And as an entrepreneur, you're that person. You have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because by looking at that, looking at myself as my greatest asset, I have to make sure that I take care of those top three things: my energy, my health, my mood, in order to operate at my highest and greatest self. So I'm going to break down what that looks like and what you need to do in order to, operate as being your greatest asset. So it's much easier to take care of yourself when you have those boundaries. And I know we talked about that in episode 2 of creating those boundaries. So enacting things like having your phone shut off or go automatically on do not disturb at certain times of the day so that you can do what I call focus work. And so there's no interruptions and you're able to just get some of those things done. But some questions to ask yourself to see if you are truly treating yourself as an asset is: 1, do I feel overwhelmed? And when you're feeling overwhelmed because you start to get a little scatterbrained, you're cutting from one thing to another, you're not focused, or you have a sense of there's so much to get done, so I'm not going to do anything. Like, I don't even know where to start. And I've certainly been there where it's like, oh my gosh, everything's on fire. So what do I put the water on first? And so in those cases, because I believe that every problem, there is a solution, looking at and identifying, sorting, organizing what the issues are, that's causing this overwhelm. So overwhelm is basically where there's more of something than you need. I need more time, but I feel like I have less time than I need. So I feel overwhelmed. I need more money, but I feel like I have less money. So I feel overwhelmed. I need more help, but I feel like I don't have enough help. So I feel overwhelmed. So looking at, and treating yourself as an asset. Now, this is what we're talking about today. Breaking down exactly what the issue is very important. So if it's a time issue, looking at, okay, so what is the priority right now? Like, what do I need right now? Because certain things that you think are urgent sometimes aren't really urgent. They're just, you want to get them done. It would be nice to get them done, but maybe it's not urgent. So you can put those things to the side and just focus on, okay, what needs to be done today? And hopefully, as we continue on through this podcast, you'll be able to get the tools that I use, and you'll be able to learn how to structure your month, your quarter, your year, your day, so that you don't have a ton of urgent items, that everything won't be on fire all at once. Now, of course, things happen. Life happens. It's a lot of things you cannot plan. So this podcast is all about concentrating on what you can control and releasing what you cannot control. Okay. So there are certain things that, of course, you can control. You can control things like what you put in your day. Are you spending a lot of time on social media? Are you spending too much time doing something that really doesn't add to your life or your business? And those are hard questions, and those can be tough questions to ask yourself. So don't say you don't have enough time when you just spent, an hour or two scrolling, and it wasn't something that's going to move your life or your business forward. But also thinking about, okay, what makes me frustrated? Does my body feel tired in the afternoon? I don't like to go to bed where I'm exhausted. To me, that means that something's off and my day was just chocked full of things that were tiring for me. And that's now how I choose to live my life. When I go to bed, I want, of course, to feel rested and feel like that day is complete, but I don't want to feel totally spent. That's not a typical day for me. If I feel totally spent, that means that, like we had an event, that I had to work or something, and it was a longer day than usual. But my usual day, of course, I'm ready to lie down. I'm ready to sleep, but I don't feel exhausted. When people are like, oh, I'm just exhausted. It's not good to operate at that plane where you're just highs and lows and you go to bed and you wake up and you're still not fully rested. That means there's something else that's tiring your mind, your body, or your spirit. And that's something that you need to really identify, and so that you can be well rested and bring your highest and fullest self to your business. Because again, you're an asset. We're looking at ourselves as assets now. Okay. So the top 5 ways that will support you in seeing yourself as an asset. You ready? Okay. So one of the ways, and I talked about this in season 1, and if you didn't listen to season 1, they were shorter episodes because I was just getting my feet wet as a podcaster myself. Although I've been producing podcasts for nearly a decade, it's a little different on this side of the microphone. So they're a little shorter, but I do talk about outsourcing and the value of outsourcing and knowing when to outsource in season 1. So make sure you go back and pull that up. But one of the ways to support yourself in being an asset is to know when to outsource. Because when you look at yourself as an asset, you know that you are not supposed to be doing everything. You only want to do the things that you are best fit for. Okay. So this is the greatest thing to think about is, is this something that I should be doing? Can someone else be doing this faster? Will it be easier for someone else to do this instead of saying, okay, I have to do all of this myself because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't have a lot of money. I have to just figure this out. In a lot of cases, I've found when I've outsourced items in my business, it has increased my revenue. So that money that I was paying to someone to do something, it came back to me, 2 times because I was able to either take on more clients or I was just able to open up my schedule so that I didn't have to do all of the little details. I was able to outsource some of those things so that I can then concentrate on the things that bring me joy. Like I really enjoy working with our clients in the production side. Other elements of the business, I'm able to outsource to someone else who enjoys doing that part. See, that's the thing. I don't believe that life is supposed to be hard. It's not. When you are operating in your gift and you are showing up at your best and highest and truest self, things will flow. That doesn't mean that life won't happen. Again, I always preface that. Life happens, obstacles happen, setbacks happen. But when you've done the inner work, and we talked about the inner work in episode 1 of this season, I believe, you'll be able to ride those waves. So the number 1, I said my top 5 ways that will support you in seeing yourself as an asset is outsourcing. And there's so many different ways. You have everything from virtual assistants to online platforms where you can look for help. Don't think that you have to have everything figured out by yourself. But in addition to all these virtual resources and online databases, I'm old school. And, I know of a lot of local resources that can really help you. You're looking for a business consultant? Hey, contact SCORE, contact the small business development centers. They're all across the country. And a lot of cities now have some sort of entrepreneur-related resource programs. And typically they're free. There's typically no charge for these types of resources because a lot of cities realize the importance of small businesses and the fact that small businesses create jobs for our neighbors. So that's one thing. I said outsourcing. Secondly, a way to look at yourself as an asset, and so that you can show up as your greatest, highest, and truest self, is to create those boundaries. And I talked about creating boundaries in the previous episode, but I listed it here because creating boundaries is also about time blocking. And so, time blocking is when you say there's certain hours throughout the day that you do certain activities. So for me, I do most of like any type of paperwork or something that I'm sitting. I do that first thing in the morning because that's when I'm freshest and that's where I can get it done because it's my least favorite activity. When I say eat the frog, just get it over with and you're done. I like to have midday where I'm doing something where I'm up and about, whether I'm outside or I'm interacting with someone else, because although I consider myself an introvert, I still enjoy interacting with people. And then towards the end of the day is when I like to either wrap up any type of activities that I may have or have some meetings. So like 1:00 is a good meeting time. Like I would say 11:00 or 1:00 are probably my favorite meeting times to do that. So that time blocking helps me to anticipate, okay, I know at this time I typically do these types of activities. This time I do this type of activity. And it helps me to take care of my energy so that I am not totally exhausted. Like I wouldn't schedule 3 meetings back to back because that's going to be exhausting for me. That's not going to feel good for me. So I have typically different times throughout the day or different times throughout the week that I reserve just for meetings or for consultations with prospective clients and things of that nature. My third way of supporting yourself as your top business asset is to simplify your process. So when I say simplify your process, that means looking at how my business is structured, how I can make it so that it's less of me pushing buttons and more of me operating in my gift, And so one of my favorite soft pieces of software, and I'm actually going to put the link in the show notes. It's called HoneyBook. I've used HoneyBook for onboarding new clients and basically customer relationship management, CRM, for a few years now. It's probably been about 5 years that I've used HoneyBook. And I like HoneyBook because prospective clients can get my pricing, they can get a contract, they can get all this information before I'm even on the phone with them. They get follow-up emails, they get reminder emails, they can schedule a one-on-one consultation with me, and I haven't done a thing. It's all on the back end of my website. I love, 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 love it because it just simplifies the process. I can see if a client has seen the brochure, if they have a question, it has frequently asked questions on there. It just makes it much easier for an entrepreneur that's just getting started and maybe you can't afford a virtual assistant just yet. Or this can work, alongside in tandem with your virtual assistants. It just makes it much easier, cuts down on emails and the back and forth, and everything is in one place. So I'm going to put the link for HoneyBook in the show notes. I'm just writing a note to myself. So you have that. So hop on down and you can see that in the show notes. But that's one of my favorite resources will be HoneyBook. But any type of software that can help you to simplify the process. So of course this is, this is related to your business. So each business is different, but depending on if your product or service, having something that can take a load off of you, what I call the mental load, where it's, did I remember to do this? Did I do that? Did I write that check? Blah, 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 blah. And I know I'm dating myself by saying write a check, but I still write payroll checks myself. But if you don't, looking at other types of software that can simplify that process. If you have vendors, you have team members, making sure that appropriate taxes are taken out, etc. There's software out there that can really help you. It's just about identifying and doing the research to find them. Now, another way to support yourself in being your top business asset and treating yourself as such is by, this is very basic, but this is something I had to learn, remembering to eat. I know that's crazy. Some people say, how do you forget to eat? Well, when I first started as a full-time entrepreneur, I was like, now I don't have any excuses. I can go for it. And so I was pedal to the metal. I was going. And it wasn't until I almost fainted because I hadn't eaten. I was just so excited about now finally being a full-time entrepreneur that I wasn't taking care of myself. And so now I keep snacks in my car. I always have, water, or I always, have like a hydration multiplier or something like that, so that I can stay hydrated, and that I have like some granola bars or just something that I can snack on from time to time. So if I do get busy where I'm like, I am in the zone, I don't want to move, I don't want to break, I still am taking care of myself, with those basic types of things. So identifying, okay, so what are some of your favorite snacks that aren't too messy? Of course you don't want to, if you're working on the computer, have Cheeto dust on your fingers and messing up your laptop there. But looking at and making sure that you have the appropriate snacks so that you can take care of yourself, because again, you are an asset and you are important, and you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're getting the nutrients that you need. One of my favorite snacks would be Granny Smith apples with peanut butter. That's probably my favorite snack. If like I'm busy and I'm just doing a lot of things, I'll make sure that I make myself a bowl of that before I go to my next thing. So that's one of my favorites. But any type of snack that you can have available to you so that you can take care of yourself. And because you don't want to eat a lot of fast food. Fast food actually gives me a headache. I'm not a fast food person. But having those fruits and having some vegetables and just having snacks that get you the fuel, looking at yourself as an asset now, giving yourself the fuel that you need so that you can show up as your highest, truest, and best self. Now, finally, a way to support yourself as an asset is to look at making sure that you schedule. And I'm going to have an episode just for that. I call it Scheduling Joy. But I put on here, making sure that you have movement on your calendar. Okay, so what does that mean? Movement is just something that gets you up and about, something that brings you happiness, basically. So recently, one of my dear friends invited me to a belly dancing class, and I so enjoyed myself. Next, I'm looking at whether I'm going to continue my swimming classes, or, if you just like going for a walk, in your neighborhood, or just something that gets you up and about. I'm grateful that I live in an area where I can go down to the riverfront and walk along the riverfront and listen to the birds chirping and see the water, see the boats go by. So anything that brings some sort of movement, whether it's indoor or outdoor, you want something that moves your body because you want to get that energy going. And believe me, it's going to show up in your business. As you elevate your mood by having some sort of outlet, even with my kids, I try to give them some sort of outlet for that energy. We live in a very sedentary lifestyle right now. So you want to make sure that you have something on your calendar that has some movement to it. One of my recommendations is looking at your local YMCA. There's a ton of different classes and a ton of different, abilities. Don't think you have to be, in this rocket shape, or you need to be a certain physique, because I certainly am not, but there's something for everyone. I recently enjoyed this stretch class where we stretch everything from our fingertips to our ankles, and it was just great. I loved it. It's probably one of my favorite classes I've ever taken. It was just a basic stretch class, and she really helped us on how to stretch our bodies every single day. So that was today's episode on treating yourself as your greatest asset, because if you're not good, the business will not be great. Believe me. So keeping in mind how to take care of yourself, your energy, your health, and your mood. I'm going to make sure to put in the show notes that HoneyBook link, because that's a great way to outsource some of those things that probably are taking up some of your time and energy that you can have a software doing instead. So thank you for tuning in to this episode. I have more episodes in store. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel at Motor City Woman, as well as your favorite podcast player. And we want to hear from you. If you have a challenge and you would like me to share and be part of a future episode, you can go to motorcitywoman.com/More Than Business podcast, and you can actually leave us a voice note, and you may be on a future episode. So until then, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be at peace.